Isaiah, to be satisfied when you die.
Yeah.
That God used you and you were satisfied. I'm not sure there's a whole lot else that matters but that. That's extremely blessed.
There isn't.
There is.
There just isn't. Um, it just isn't.
And what's the text in the Bible? Good and faithful servant.
Well
in who
done.
I am well pleased.
Yes.
Well done, my good and faithful servant,
Yes.
in who I am well pleased. I want that. I don't. At this point in my life, I'm not sure I deserve it, but I would love to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I want the Lord to say that about me. I
Yes. 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 I have a statement that Rachel doesn't like too much, but I understand it. It's a statement in another song, and the artist most people frown at because the artist is Coolio.
Okay.
Weird, outspoken, this, visible individual while he was in the spotlight. But he has this song, and the lyrics are, I'll see you when you get there. That's if you ever get there. I'll see you when you get there.
That's right.
And I thought about that. The song is so crazy. I always like the song. But if you understand what he's saying,
Yeah.
and he tells you, we're always talking about getting to that place. So we're always talking about making it and having that final reward on doing this thing. But, and he said they're always talking about doing it together. And he says, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there.
Amen.
And I'll see you when you get there. That's if you ever get there.
Right.
I'll see you when you get there.
I love that. I love that. And Coolio is a great example of what I'm going to say is that there are so many artists who is like the Black Sabbath guy, the leader of that. But he is a Christian.
Yeah.
And when you listen to his interviews, he talks about his relationship with God and his love for the Lord. I use that experience when I think about Coolio or anybody else. They have this crazy life, but that has no influence over their beliefs.
We always want to talk about what people should do if they're Christians and they're going to serve the Lord. You should do this and you should do that, and these are the things that you should be about. But we have no idea what the mission is.
That's right.
That the Lord has set them on. And so the Lord is in control of that. And so how can we say that you should do this or you should do that when we don't know what the Lord has given them to do? We don't know what the gifts that the Lord has given this individual, the skills, the talents, the abilities. We don't know that.
No.
And then there's a specific mission for a specific purpose. We have no idea what that is. And when they embark on this mission, the first thing we want to say is, that's not what I do. Yeah, it isn't what you do, because you're not supposed to be doing what I'm doing.
Exactly right.
You're supposed to be doing what you're doing.
And the Lord blesses all kinds of ways we enter the kingdom.
Yeah. Well,
Our experiences leading up to that are individual between us and God.
well, as many people as there are out there, none of us have exactly the same path
Of course not.
to heaven. When you talk about an individual family, and whether it's a small family, 2 or 3 kids, or a large family like mine is 11, none of us have the same personality. None of us have the same likes and dislikes. We have some things that we like that overlap throughout the family, but
Sure.
they're not all the same.
Right.
And so when we come to the Lord, it won't be all the same path. Matter of fact, when we are told about the kingdom has 2 gates, and there are 3 gates on each wall. And so each of those gates have the title of a tribe, on above it, and we're going to go through one of those doors. We're not all going to go through the same door.
That's right.
So if we're not all going through the same door getting into heaven, why in the world do we think we're all going to travel the same path to get to heaven
That's
on
exactly
earth?
right. And you know, another thing about human nature is if someone is following your path and has a suspicion that you're going to go to heaven, and they're not following your path, that doesn't make their path wrong.
No, it doesn't.
And a lot of people get hung up on that. Oh, well, I don't live like they live, or whatever like that. And that's between you and God. You got to work that out with Him.
Well, to me, and I've had a lot of people frown on this, but it's like, you don't live like they live. That's true. But do you live for God? Yeah, I do.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, can you say that they don't live for God?
Right.
No, I can't say that.
Right.
Well, leave them alone then.
Oh,
Because if they live for God, then they're doing exactly what God is asking them to do, as you are doing what God is asking you to do.
Right.
And that's all we ever have. When we get to heaven, I'm not gonna be up there answering for this person over there. Well, they did that because. No, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, right.
There's no way.
I'm gonna have to answer for me. I did this because,
Right.
I believe, and I am the one who's going to hear that was absolutely, positively wrong, or
Yeah.
well done, good and faithful servant.
Exactly.
Enter into the
Exactly.
joy of my Father. I'm going to hear one of those things. And so, I can only answer for me as they can only answer for them. You can't even answer for your children, and you taught them for as much as you could teach them.
Right.
And they have to make up their mind what they're going to do, how they're going to go, and where they're going to do, how they're going to do it. So,
And they deserve to have their own way
yeah.
of formulating their relationship with God and then moving forward with that. Everyone deserves that opportunity, I believe. Because I can't do it. I can't do it for my kids. I can't do it. Can't do it for my son. Can't do it for my girls. I can't do that. It has to be that they led a good life as children. They were taught, and I can pray. That's what I can do.
And now all I can say is, if my mother wasn't praying for me the way she was praying for me, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at right here today. But she prayed hard because I was a knucklehead. So, and I had to come to grips with that. I thought, I'm cool,
Yeah, of course.
But, I really wasn't. And it took me a little waking up, to find out that those things I needed to correct. So for me, coming into the faith of Jesus was to realize what it took here and what it possibly could take for anyone else to get there, but then understanding that I am in no wise in control of how anybody else got there except for me.
That's exactly right. What we have with God is personal.
Very personal.
And I can't, even for
Happy Sabbath, Shalom.
Evan that I gave birth to, I can't lead him. He has to lead himself.
Exactly. It's always great when your kids do well,
Oh, absolutely.
but
It's truth.
and
But
sometimes
if they don't, you love them anyway.
you have to, because you think of us, which one of us? Well, what did Jesus say? Those without sin cast the first stone.
Exactly.
And I know the thought going through my head, so I figure, what was the thought going through their head? Now, they all dropped those stones and quietly moved off, and so Jesus had to be saying something pretty specific to every last one of them.
Right.
If you don't have any sin, yeah, go ahead. Hit her right upside the head. Hit her right here with that stone. Just go ahead, because I'm with you. If you don't have any sin, I am with you. But he couldn't even. Nobody could do that. They just dropped those stones and moved off, and till finally he had to say, "Where's your accusers?"
Exactly.
And she expected a whole crowd, and they were all gone.
Mm-hmm.
And we're the same way. We know that we don't deserve anything that the Lord gives us,
That's right.
but He gives it to us. He promises it to us, and all we have to do is accept it. And I think that's probably the thing that gets most people hung up,
Mm-hmm.
is accepting it, because a lot of us don't get anything from anybody without strings attached.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time we'll tell people you're crazy. You're going to give me, this is the example that Joseph uses in the class. He says, hands a person an envelope. And in that envelope is a check for $40 million. Now, all you have to do is accept this and take it to the bank. But most people will look into that envelope and they'll see that check, a 40 with all those zeros behind it, and they'll laugh and they'll rip it up and throw it away and go on about their business. Because why would you do that? And we can say the same thing to Jesus. Why would you do that? Why would you give me the kingdom for eternity? I know that I don't deserve it. He says, yeah, you don't. But I love you, and if you follow me, I give you this as a free gift.
That's right.
But we tell the Lord, I don't believe you. Whatever you have, I don't
That's
believe you.
really true. It's
Yeah.
really true. And I'm gonna take that $40 million check and I'm gonna put it in the bank anyway.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah, because I am a believer.
That's it. I want that check. I want it.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, that's some of the things that we deal with. But even in dealing with that, you'll take a person who says, I'm going to take that $40 million check and I'm going to put it in the bank. But I will do that for that $40 million check. But the Lord says, I'm going to give you more than that. I'm going to give you so much that you won't be able to count it. And all you got to do is just accept it,
Right.
and act like you have it.
That's right.
And we won't do it. We call God a liar just about every moment of our lives because we don't believe that He will give us such a thing. But He's promised us to it.
And you know what I think might be the problem with human nature with that? There's nothing concrete to put your hands around. Like the $40 million check, there's a piece of paper and you're putting it in the bank. And you can see that as human nature says, I can see that. But with God, as beautiful as it is, there's something so ethereal about it that I wonder if a lot of people get lost because of that.
They may. And that is, again, is the fault in us. That what makes you think that if you take this check down to the bank that they're actually going to honor it?
Absolutely. I know.
Even the money that we have, the paper money we have, if you listen to the laws of this country, paper money is illegal. It's always been illegal. But we've gone to it anyway, and we use it. It says that it's a promissory note.
Yeah.
The promises of man, we know what they are,
Yeah.
but we believe that. We believe that and
That's
won't
true.
believe God.
But I think not to make excuses for humans, but I think part of the problem with humans is there's nothing to wrap their mind around. It's so huge and immense and beautiful, I will add, that a lot of people just can't fathom it. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people.
And there is where we enter into a wrong situation. Because the Lord never says for us to wrap our heads around
I know.
the totality of heaven.
I know.
Never says that. What He says is, He says, accept me.
Right.
And the one person, that's all we have to do is accept Him. And if we do that, then all the other stuff falls into play. But we want to conceive all of heaven, which can't always be done
You can't.
because there's nothing to compare it to. When the Revelation, when it's been you the description of the 12 foundations under the city, it's one of those things that you can't even imagine a foundation being that big, made out of these things, and then there's 12 of them. You know, how do they piece together? You know, how is it that it fashioned? And then you look at the description. It's the streets are gold, but they're transparent. Okay, first of all, we can't gather all together transparent gold. But then the fact that the streets are transparent, what are you looking at?
See, now you're addressing what I'm talking about, not making excuses, but talking about people can't wrap their heads around it. They can't.
But he never asked us to do that. He
I
gives
know.
us a really good description of what's going on, but he never tells us to put our head around all of it.
I know.
He says, love me. Just love me. And if you love me, you'll learn all about the rest of these things. But we want to learn about the rest of these things before we love him. And a lot of those things we won't be able to understand unless we love first.
Right.
And
I agree.
so I say putting the cart before the horse. And when it goes on to keeping this description going, he says also the walls are the same transparent gold, and then there's no moon and stars. The light of it is the Lord himself. So we got a hard picture to figure that all the kingdom is going to be lit by God himself, and we won't have any shadows. We won't have a whole lot of things that we notice here on earth. But how does that work? We want to know how it works first before we can accept it. And that's not what he asked us to do. That's not faith.
I agree.
Faith
I agree.
is to accept those things that we cannot see.
That's right.
And so, but we got it backwards, and that's how come we have a hard time accepting the promises of God.
Yes.
And we will accept that $40 million check first, hoping that when we go down to cash it, it'll actually be in our account. But Jesus said, all you have to do is accept me. Just believe. Just believe and have faith. And these things are already in your account. The hard concept is when you believe in God right now, you're saved right now. People want to go and work for it. They want to do something for it. And he already told you can't work for it. There's nothing that you can actually do to earn the right to go to heaven except for believe in me.
Right. And accept this gift.
And he said, well, wait a minute. You're not going to give me a gift without me doing something. That's the way everybody here in the world does it. Why? I'm not asking you to do like what the world asks you to do. I'm asking you to do what I tell you to. And what I'm telling you to do is just to love me and to love one another and love yourself. And all of these things are yours because you're going to do what you need to do if you love first. And we don't love. We want to tell the Lord, see that person over there? I was raised with that person, and they are not worth my time.
Isn't that why? So when you go to Hebrews, because you're hitting on this word faith, and I like how you're talking about it because when you look at it, this is why Paul, when he writes it out, and he's talking to the church in Greece. He's talking to these Hebrew guys, and he uses this Greek word, and you guys have heard me talk about it a lot. But because he uses the definition of divine persuasion, and so because of that, the idea of being persuaded to being persuaded to do something that you wouldn't normally do. I love the analogy of the check that you would almost have to be talked into. It's kind of like they keep announcing on TV about the person who has won
Yeah.
this this huge the largest
yeah.
lottery.
$700 million.
Yeah, it's almost $1 billion, and the person not only they haven't come forward yet, it hasn't been claimed, and so they've been like, "Hey, check your tickets." They know where it was purchased, and for whatever reason, I got to tell you, if my toe crossed into that state, and I remembered buying a ticket, I would be going through my trash.
I think with that, not to belabor the point, because this isn't all what we're talking about, but I think a lot of people who are hesitant to do that are just, it's such a major change in your life, and they are reluctant to accept that.
Yes, but I'm following Ursul's point when he says that with the got the check and being talked into it, and they tear it up, and they don't believe. We don't believe that God will actually accept us the way we are. I mean, because that's what it really comes down to. I actually made this statement once to someone. I said, the reason why we don't live the way we should, the reason why we don't act the way we should, the reason why we don't do those things is because we actually don't believe that God really will save us. We don't really believe. I mean, we go to church, we say the right things, we do these things, but we still sin. And I said, and here was the statement I made. I said, we sin because we don't believe. And then you'd have thought I had fingernails on the chalkboard. I thought I was going to get out of the room. People didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that I said we sin because we don't believe. And it's because you just thought they were saying that, oh, wait a minute. What you're saying is I'm like all the people who don't go to church. I'm like all of you. Because in a sense, I was like, well, yeah, we sort of are. Because
Going to church doesn't have anything to believe.
exactly. That was totally my point. It was like, wait a minute. No, we are being in church and going to church and still sinning. Yeah, you're exactly like everybody else. In other words, we're all in this together, which was the whole point of the first part of Romans. That's what Paul was trying to tell everybody. It's like, look, you think you're better than everybody else by saying this and this and this and this, and you want to count everybody else's sins, and you want to talk about how bad everybody else is, and guess what? You're exactly like everybody else, which, in my opinion, is kind of what he's doing in Hebrews. He's just kind of sugarcoating. He's making it nice to the guys in Hebrews. He's saying, wait a minute. This is what it really means to believe. You got to be divinely persuaded. And I believe that those guys, it was like fingernails on the chalkboard when he says Hebrews 11:1. He's actually saying to those guys, it's like you guys have to be divinely persuaded, because when you're really divinely persuaded, this is what you can expect God to do.
Exactly.
So then you go to that and you take that check. You're not hoping the bank's going to take that check. You're going to be upset when they don't, because you know they're going to take and cash that check. And I think that's where you were going.
I mean, it's when we do not act on what God has promised us, what we have actually done is we have looked God straight in the eye, and we have said, God, you are a liar.
I don't
Because
believe you.
you cannot love me enough to excuse all this garbage that I've done in my life, and all the things that I have done to other people. You just can't excuse that. I know you can't excuse that. So I don't care what you promise. You can't excuse that. And I don't believe you are ever going to excuse that. So I'm just going to do what I'm going to do.
I don't want to be that person.
No, you're right. I'm with you. I don't want to be that either.
You don't want to be that person. But a lot of times when we are so influenced by the world that we live in, we become that person.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because we have gradually accepted the world's way of doing things. which does not operate on the rules of heaven. It's obvious by the conflicts that we have all over the world that we don't all aspire to the way God has designed things. We have not gone after His plan. We have not believed enough in His promises to go after them wholeheartedly. So we don't engage in them because we actually just don't believe. Because the world says other things, such as the statements. Another group we were talking to is when the phrase "look out for number one." When we look out for number one, we exclude everyone else from our care, and that's actually our children, our spouses, our parents, our siblings, and anyone else who has done anything else for us. We've excluded them because I've got to look out for number one. Well, we know who is the author of that, because the Lord never tells us to look out for number one. He says, love one another as I have loved you. To wives, husbands, to love your wives as Christ loved the church. Love yourselves, and then you can love other people. But a lot of us don't even love ourselves. And again, we're calling God a liar because you're telling Him that He hasn't made anything that I can love. Anything that you've put in this, I can't get near because I know it's faulty. I can love it if it was perfect. But we're always told that we're not perfect. And we've already experienced the fact that we're not perfect. But God's promise says that I love you. We say, no, you don't. So we're calling Him a liar.
Wow.
You're so right, man. I love it.
I go back to what I was writing here today on the word being sifted. We can apply this to anything and everything that we do in life, that we are sifted by Christ to find out if there's anything valuable in what we are doing, or what we believe, or how we are motivated. Like say, being sifted, to be moved, to be displaced, to reel, to sway back and forth, to almost fall over because we're being uprooted, we're sifted, to be removed. Again, that word, you were listening at the time, but to be removed, it's like, well, to be done away with. Well, it's not that. To be removed is to be moved and moved again and moved again and moved again because
like
you're
that.
not stable.
Removed.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it.
Too.
And it took me a while to get into that one. It said, but yeah, being removed.
Moved over and over and over and over
again.
again.
And then it goes to that different definition of being done away with, which is what we thought by being removed. And to be scattered, to be shaken, to be staggered, to be thrown to and fro, to be a vagabond. And like I said, we were talking about the vagabond, that we are displaced so that we have no home. We know that we are not accepted in any place. And so we are a vagabond. But if we are sifted, we can become that because we are displaced. Made to wander, which is that vagabond. To tremble, to vibrate, to swing. And like I say, that swinging, to be swung around, like say the planets are swung around and by that unseen force, and we are swung around by an unseen force, one of two. It's either God is swinging us to get us to realize, or the devil is swinging us to destroy us. But we're being swung around. We're tottering, and we're disturbed, or we're separated or again done away with, removed. And I just, the statements again, to go through something very carefully to find something of value. So the Lord is sifting us every day to find that something of value. The thing that we have to ask ourselves, have I done enough so that the Lord can find something of value in me?
Wow.
And the point is, no, you haven't done enough so that the Lord can find something of value in you, because he put it in you in the first place. You've done nothing for that. He's got it there for you. Again, what you were saying is that gift. And if we accept the gift and start using the gift, then we have something of value, because the Lord will find something of himself in you. And if he can't find anything of himself in you, there's nothing very valuable. But the second statement is to make a close examination of all parts of something in order to find something, or to separate what is useful from what is not. And a lot of times we don't love ourselves because we can recognize all the things that are not useful. We never concentrate on the things that are useful. There are people, in spite of what we think about ourselves, that love us.
Yes.
And sometimes you sit back and, why in the world would you waste your time loving me? What could possibly see? I know this, and I can't see what you see. But the Lord says that to us all the time. You may not be able to see anything. You may not even be able to see me, but you know that I love you because you're alive today.
Yeah. Wow.
You know I love you. And I mean, he gives us breath. He gives us, when we consider that we're alive today, there's lots of things that we have to understand. Yes, our heart beats, our lungs breathe, but we reason to understand that these things work, and they work automatically. It's not because I set the program up. It's because God set the program up, and he hasn't disturbed it. He hasn't turned the switch off. We are fabulous machines. It says fearfully and wonderfully made. I mean, one of the things that I like, when you look into science, the bacterial flagellum is a organism within the cell that looks like an outboard motor. It propels itself along through the fluid of a cell. And long years ago, when I first was studying science, we learned that there was the membrane, and there was the nucleus, and there was this gel in between. And that's all there was to a cell. But now today we know that there's millions of working parts in each cell, and the spiral flagellum is just one of them. And it has these hairs about it that it moves through the body, through the fluid of the cell, never running into anything. It navigates its way through to a specific component within the cell. Then it touches it, and then immediately the motor backs up. It backs away from that individual component. But in that touching, it has transferred information to that component so that it can continue to do what it's doing. And then it moves off to another component in the cell to do the same thing. And we're not sure that if it's the same components in the cell. It just moves about delivering information. Where does it get its information from? If we understand that God made us, we're fearfully and wonderfully made. We have these a right to be able to say, God gave the bacterial flagellum its information to deliver to each cell. We know that the Lord spoke everything into existence in the beginning. What keeps us from understanding that the Lord is still talking to things, to our bodies? You know, he controls the solar system. We know that there are, well, at least they say that there's more than 3 trillion um, uh, stars that are that make up the Milky Way, but there's several billion galaxies that they can find within space that we can see. So if the Lord has created all of that and controls all that, navigates all that, makes all of it work like it's supposed to work, can't he wonderfully make us to understand that all of these things are working in our body, that not only do we breathe and our heart beats and we can see and we can hear and we can feel, our brain works where we can realize the goodness of God. God is doing such a fantastic thing in us. We have to be able to say, yes, he loves us, but the world says he doesn't. We do this on our own, and we just function because that little thing crawled out of the slime pit several billion years ago. This is why you are what you are today, but everything that we can study points differently. There is a book that I read called The Design Inference. Well, it infers that we had to have a creator. We had to have a creator because none of this could happen by chance. Because if you take one component of the human body and have it develop without the other component, well, neither one of them works. They all had to be there together to work. I mean, all the muscles around the eye and how intricate they go through pulleys and loops to make our eyes move in the right direction. And not only does the eye move, it moves in concert with the other one so that we can focus on what we need to focus on and understand what that is. And at the same time, all these impulses go back through the optical nerve and then to the region of the brain that deciphers all of what we're seeing and then tells the brain, oh, that's this. The Lord is doing all of these things for us. Why would you believe that we just came out of a slime pool? How could you believe that we came out of a slime pool? One of the things in that book is a term called irreducible complexity. You can take a complex organism and you can reduce it in component parts only to a certain point where it ceases to become or ceases to function as that organism. So it isn't that organism. It's like a car. I mean, a car has a body and it has 4 wheels and it has a motor, a transmission, drivetrain, and rear end, tires on it, and a way to start that motor, whether it be for a key or in the old days we got out and cranked it up. But if you took those components away from it, what makes it it's not a car. It's a bunch of parts, but it's not a car because it can't function as a car. Now, of course, today we have all these luxury items, rolling windows or automatic windows and push button starts and sensors in the wheel to tell you, how much air you've lost and all that kind of stuff. Man is able to do that. It's a design. So we cannot take the next step and say that we are a design because we are machines. Everything in us, when we look at it, it all functions at a certain set pace. And we are not the ones that have set that pace. We can return it to a pace in certain conditions through surgery and different things that we do to each other to help heal one another. But we have not set those paces. We don't know what those parameters are on our own without finding the original to know it. I have not seen yet someone create life like in the fiction of Frankenstein. We've not been able to do that yet. Cloning is something different. You're taking something that is alive from one thing and placing it in another to let it grow and to become something else or maybe close to the same thing. But that's cloning. That's not creating life from nothing. And that's what we were created from, or being able to realistically go out and grab that dirt out of the ground out there and say, I'm going to make a human being with that. I want to see that when you're able to do that. So I want someone to call me and let me know that I've got this process ironed out, and I'm going to get this handful of dirt and make a child out of it.
I can't imagine.
You know, so we know that we have been designed. We know that we are made, and the Lord says He loves us because He made us. He made us what we are today, and He wants to see us to maturity. We're told in the Bible, He says, now, when that day comes, Paul says, I'm not sure what we shall be, but I know when He appears, we will be like Him, and His body is going to be perfect.
Amen.
You know, we like to say our body is perfect now, it's working and all that kind of stuff. And there's another thing that I was realizing in our bodies being perfect, what we think is perfect here on earth. When we get to heaven, in the houses that we are promised, there's a few things that we won't have. Can anybody guess what those things that we won't have in those houses made new?
Clock.
I was gonna say that.
That's one thing we won't have. But there's some other basic things that we won't have.
Running water.
Won't need that.
We don't have a light bulb.
Won't need that.
I like to believe we still have stereo.
What are you talking about?
We won't need kitchens.
If we want, yeah, that's true.
We won't need bathrooms. We won't need toilets.
No kitchens, no stoves, no bathrooms. I did think about the toilet.
Yeah. Won't need closets. We don't have one robe and we'll be wearing it.
Yeah.
You know? And so, I mean, we won't need a whole lot of things that we have in houses now. Because we just eat it, our bodies won't be made perfect. When we eat, we will consume it all till there's nothing. And our bodies will use every last bit of it. So there won't be any waste. So our bodies will be perfect. And those are some of the improvements. If we didn't get upset stomachs or had different discomforts like diarrhea and stuff, we would, if we didn't have, we would be perfect then. I wouldn't have to worry about all those things.
Yep.
But what is telling us our bodies will be perfect. We won't need all of those things. I mean, our eyes, 20/20 vision is what we call perfect here on earth. But the Lord tells us that when we sit at the welcome table is going to be miles and miles long, and we'll be able to see from one end to another.
Right.
Right now, we can't even see 300 yards across a football field.
Absolutely.
My banquet day will be very disappointing. I have a hard time seeing the TV in my living.
And I mean,
You're right. You are absolutely right.
there's a whole bunch of things that we have to consider in our life being our bodies being made perfect. We have skin that falls off every so often because it dies, and to keep protecting our body. While our bodies were perfect, we won't need to shed skin. I will have a full head of hair, and and I won't ever have to worry about when we talk about, when Mark was talking about stereo, there's a thing in that when he says we are going to be able to sing a perfect 4-part harmony out of one throat.
Right.
Some of us can't sing a 1-part harmony.
That's me.
And so to be able to sing a perfect 4-part harmony out of one throat, these are spectacular things. And we will be able to do these things, and we can't even imagine to do them right now. And so we have to believe that we were created, and we were created by a loving creator who has said, I go to prepare a place for you. And if it were not true, I would have told you. He didn't say, I would have told them. He says, I would have told you. And he says, if I go to prepare a place, which I am, I've already told you I am, I'm going to return again, and I'm going to receive you unto me. I'm going to receive you unto myself. Where I am, you will be as well. I can't imagine anybody here on earth that has gone to a place that is the ultimate paradise and will come back and get me and give me that free trip to where they're at.
Not if they've already gone.
I know.
Now if they've already, they ain't coming back.
Yeah.
You know.
If I got an extra ticket to go on the bus, maybe.
God has a mission.
Yeah, you know.
He does.
And he never said, tell you what, if you can get that $32 together for the bus ticket
Right.
Yeah.
and then meet me in Colorado Springs,
Yeah.
I'll pick you up from there,
Right.
and then I'll take you on to the place where
You're
I have
right.
described.
It's
He's
nothing
not
like
saying that.
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to come and get you
And bring you back.
and bring you back.
Mm-hmm.
If it weren't so, I would have told you. I mean, that's amazing to me.
You know, and those are things that we have to go back to this point of being sifted. Every incident in life is a sifting by God to see whether or not we have something in us of value. Even if it's a little bit. That's the whole point of sifting when we think of the gold panning days where they go out into the stream and they sift through all these rocks and pan and find these little specks of gold. It's the whole pan wasn't gold. It was these few little specks in there of gold, and they picked those out and they put them in the bag and they kept sifting until they got a whole bag full. Well, we ourselves are the bag. And if there's anything in it of any value, the Lord is going to use that to further his kingdom. And the thing is, I want to have something in there that the Lord finds valuable,
Yes.
that is not a hoax, that is good stuff that he can use for his purposes, and that he will take that and expand upon that, and I become a totally perfect being that will live in his house for eternity.
Amen.
That's good stuff.
I imagine not trying to get there, and I just can't imagine all of the beauty of it. I mean, we are told in a few different writings the least beautiful thing in heaven, and I like to use the term, the ugliest thing in heaven is 7 times 70 more beautiful than we can imagine. And that's the ugliest thing in heaven. So we can't even picture the worst looking thing in heaven, let alone the most beautiful thing in heaven. We will be at awe constantly,
Forever. Absolutely.
forever. I just want that kind of shock and awe.
Yes.
I am shocked the fact that the Lord loved me enough to put me there. He came back for me and took me to this ultimate paradise. And when I got there, it was better than he described.
Yeah. I'll take the ugly place, please.
You know, just put me in a closet in that ugly place.
Yeah, can I-
You know, because it's got to be more than I can even in my mind, more than I can understand. But then he promises, this is where you're going to be forever. I want to be there. I don't know about anybody else, but I want to be there and I want to work for it. I want to do the things that are necessary to gladly be sifted and to find at least one small chunk of gold. And if he can find that speck, I don't care if it's as big as the head of a pin. If he can find it, that's one good thing that he will use and turn into something else. I'm thinking of the talents that the master left his servants, 1 5 the other one 2, and the other one 1. You know, the one that had 1, he just buried it in the ground, didn't do anything with it. But we don't have to worry about us doing anything, because the Lord said if he finds it, he's going to do something with it. The point is we have to have it. He's given it to us in the first place.
Right.
We just have to hold on to it and keep it and work with it and present it back to him. And when we do that, you know,
That just requires faith.
it just, that's it. We get back to faith. We get back to faith. It just requires faith and faith and promise. And he says that I am not a man that I should lie. So if I made a promise to you, you better believe I'm going to keep it.
Amen.
I'm going to keep it. And I'm telling you guys, put it in your bank, in your personal bank of your heart, which is not this, but up here. Put it there, because that is, your account is full. Just with the belief in me, your account is full.
Amen.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to wrap it up.
Okay.
I
Come
will.
over here and pray with us.
Yeah, I was going to tap it out, but I guess I'll come around there. I was going to just say, I'll come right over here.
Yeah, crumbs.
Yeah. And get all my crumbs off
Get
before I
all
get in.
the chips off. Yeah.
Yeah. They could hear me back there munching.
That's all right. That's
Yeah.
all right. That's part of what we do here.
Yeah, it was cool. So hi YouTubers and live viewers and Instagrammers. We got to do all 3 today.
Oh, awesome.
All
Awesome.
separate, so didn't matter. And I told Sherry, I said, well, you know, we were a little rough getting going with all the technical difficulties, but I got to tell you, because I was downstairs explaining to Earsul what happened. God always makes a way.
Absolutely, he does.
And I got to tell you, it was literally, well, I'm going to say it's by accident, but there are never accidents when he's there.
No.
It was, you know, on the surface, it was just a sheer accident that I turned one phone on, and I was just gonna log into Facebook and just do the Facebook Live thing, and live stream came on, and then it was like, oh hey, wow! So literally everybody we could put on. So I'm just glad that you guys all tuned in. So thanks. We're gonna just say a quick word of prayer, and then we'll be out. All right. Father in heaven, thank you so much for being with all of us today. I thank you for just the few who joined in on Instagram to watch, and those who watched or tuned in on live stream and our YouTube folks. I know that God, we've been away for a while. I know that Satan does his best to discourage us and discourage our efforts, but it's like the one thing that you gave me to say, and I posted those words. The work that there is no really, it measures up to anything, any work we have to do it's nothing, because you have already done all the work that is necessary. That any work that we do is merely helping us understand the love that you have for us, and that's all it is. It helps us understand that you love us, and it really shapes us into truly coming to grips and coming to terms how great and magnificent that love is. So, Father, I just want to say thank you. I want to ask that you help us throughout this week in some special way, that you help us understand just how much you do love us. This is not about trying to figure out what church we should go to, about what belief that we should have. The only belief that we should come to know and understand is the belief that you do love us.
Yeah.
And you are doing everything. You've already done everything what you're trying to do now is to persuade us gently to accept you, because the work is finished.
Yes.
Father, thank you so much for this beautiful day. Even though it's cold outside, and in some places it's kind of bitter around here, and maybe other parts of the states. But Father, there's folks all over the world. We just want to say, I just ask that you would take care of each and every one of us as we separate, and keep us safe. And we'll see everybody again in a few days, online, or maybe just face to face. Lord, keep us safe. Thank you for hearing us when we pray. We pray these things in Jesus'
Amen.
peace. I heard somebody shut up. Bye. No, they're all here. Say hey. Okay. Oh, 30.
What was the term you used to put down components until it's broken?
Irreducible complexity.
I
That's,
gotta go write that down.
That's amazing.
Thank you. But I'll have to ask you again. My mind is.
Share. Live stream. Yes. That one's done. And